Okay, good evening, everybody. So thank you guys for being here. Okay, Ryan is a licensed chemical dependency counselor, and he's just going to share some stuff with us. And I'm going to keep this super casual. Most of my events are super casual. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank Scythe and everyone for having me this evening. Like Scythe said, my name is Ryan. I have been a licensed chemical dependency counselor for going on 9 years now.
Yeah,
So
it's been a
it's
minute.
been a while. I've been in the field now for a while. I'm also in recovery myself. And as long as I make it to August 2nd, I will have 10 years clean and sober myself.
Oh, yeah.
And what this is, for 10 years of sobriety and recovery, it's essentially a daily maintenance, right? And also it is not doing this alone. That's one thing I want to point out, with everyone being on this webinar and this call. What this says right now is that there's lots of us who struggle with the same thing, which is addiction to illicit substance, or it's a chemical dependency, one of the two. And so I hope this says to everybody that you're not alone in your
Yeah.
struggles. It definitely says that to me. With everyone who has attended this today. Um, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because you're informing me and reinforcing the fact that much more that I'm not alone and my struggles. Though I'm clean and sober, the work still continues. The
Yeah.
work still continues. It's a daily maintenance every day. Um, One of the things that I've utilized, I would say, the most in recovery this time is because this isn't my first time in recovery. It's not my first time trying it. I have struggled with trying to get clean and sober and remain abstinent. I probably started that journey at least seven years prior to the sobriety date that I have now, which is August 2nd of 2016. Um, and so if I would have stayed sober and clean the first time, that would have been I would have been clean and sober since 2009.
Yeah. Now, for
Um,
you yourself, how old were you when you started getting hooked on substances?
I would have to say that I was, first of all, I was very young. Um, because that's an interesting question. I'd like to preface that
Hmm.
by explaining a little bit of the social institution and the social culture that I came from.
Yeah.
The social institution that I came from, one of the norms that was associated with it was feelings and emotions were not really something that was dug into, but feelings and emotions were still overwhelming.
Right.
And with them still being overwhelming, usually a mood and mind altering chemical or an illicit substance would be able to assist with kind of softening the blow of intense emotions. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons why we drink and get high.
Right.
Essentially, is to kind of just numb our feelings, numb our emotions, and kind of cope with our realities, whatever that looks like. That could be trauma. That could be, living in a bad neighborhood. That could be, um, living in a or being a part of a family or a social institution, as I like to call it.
Right.
Um,
And just like situations that are a little overwhelming, right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
so And so I would have to say that this behavior and me beginning to drink and use would have happened between the ages of 10 years old and 12 years old. The years get a little blurry for me sometimes,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
as to exactly how old I was, because I drank and used for close to 20 years,
Yeah.
very close to 20 years. And
You were knees deep in it when I met you. Yeah.
yes, for sure. Yes, yes, because when we had first met, that was I would not go into recovery again until 3 years later.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And so and so I remember too, my father was a bass player in like a biker bar rock and roll band.
Yeah.
And so I remember seeing sort of you know people who are from like a working class or even like a lower class gather together to witness live music and also utilize alcohol and drugs to essentially enhance their good time.
We know all
And I
about
remember,
that. I know all about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and and so I think somewhere, yes, like I said, like somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10 years old and 12 years old is when I started, drinking and using
Yeah.
on a consistent basis too as well. That lifestyle was just something I always wanted to be a part of. It seemed grown up. It seemed that these people had found a way to like themselves or to even cope with the situations that they were involved in. Because
Mhm.
like I said, a lot of these people were coming from a lower middle class, and so their lives were hard. Their lives were
Absolutely.
very
Yeah.
hard, and so drinking and using was the chief coping mechanism within that. And and I have to say, um when I started drinking and using, I was pretty much it I forced myself, because here's one other thing I want to emphasize too. Alcohol, drugs, the socioeconomic class that I came from, um, my family, the social institution I came from, what I saw growing up, you know, all of these were but a symptom. Okay, all of these were but a symptom. What ended up coming to be is that my problem is me and the way I think and the way I cope with my own issues and the way I cope with my own problems. And so I
Do you feel
think,
by acknowledging that you kind of took back some of your own power?
well, it definitely opened the door to where I could do some real internal work.
Right.
And it opened the door to where I could do some real internal work. And then the other thing it did too was it helped me to not look to an outside solution for an internal problem. Because the problem was up here and right here. And so and so I for years I thought to myself that my problems were due to external circumstances. My problems were due to external beings. Um, I thought that the reason why I was still in the difficult spots that I was in was not because of some of the choices I was making in order to deal with them, it was more so someone else's fault or something else's fault. Like like it's a victim of circumstance type deal. But really, what it was, and that's normal. Like that's normal for me to think that, right? Because because at this time, I am going untreated. I have
Mhm.
untreated addiction. I have untreated alcoholism. And so, of course, I'm going to think that way. Um, because I take things in through my eyes, nose, and mouth and ears. Those are my chief senses. And so, it's real easy, given how complicated the world is, to complicate my own problem and kind of also blame it on, external circumstances, or external entities. And so, and not saying that, and it's not a get out of jail free card for any of those things, right?
Right, right,
Because of course, like external circumstances and external entities, are part of the problem. Sure. And even drugs and alcohol and all that stuff is even part
right.
of the problem as well. But because we definitely don't want to dismiss trauma here.
Absolutely.
We definitely don't want to dismiss, some of the deep and dark pockets that some of us experience out here in the world, because that is very real,
Yeah,
and that stuff really does hurt bad. But at the same time, um, where the problem lies within me and where I become part of the equation is the coping mechanisms that I'm deciding to use. They're not healthy. They're not healthy. I am coping with my reality by hurting myself further.
yeah,
And that's what we're after, right? We're after, an internal solution here. We want to be able to cope with our realities without hurting ourselves.
right.
And because we want to be kind to ourselves, we want to love ourselves. We're worth it. We are. And no matter what we came from, no matter what we've done, no matter what, and and I could go on forever, with some of with some of this the screwed up things that I've done, or sort of like, the things that I've done that has just been, dishonest and just morally incorrect. Um, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I don't deserve help, and I don't deserve
Right.
um, someone to help me and kind of intervene with me.
Yeah. So where was the point for you that it kind of switched, that it started changing?
Well, so as far as when I had a problem, when I finally found out I had a problem, I would say would be my first time ever going to treatment. It never really happened in jail, because like I'd been to jail multiple times. But I would have to say it happened when I probably went to treatment for the first time, because and here's why that was different than like a jail setting, or just being homeless by myself. What happened was is that, I was finally starting to hear people who were having some of the same struggles as me. Because if we kind of rewind a little bit from when this call first started, um, you know, I had pointed out that everybody being here for this call, and all of our participants today, that says something. What that says is that we're not alone. That
Mhm.
says that we relate to the aspect of addiction. And so when I got my first taste of that, that's when I finally found out and I had a problem, and it scared the crap out of me. And here's the reason why I say it scared the crap out of me is because I heard a gentleman speak in a cafeteria of a treatment center, and and what happened was that he was essentially just saying my story. Been to jail. He had lost everything, ruined romantic and personal relationships, and even professional. He also talked about being homeless as well, which is also something that I had gone through at that time. However, there was quite the age difference between the two of us. And so here's where the fear struck me. The fear struck me in a way of rationalization. And the rationale that I came up with on my own, by the way,
Mhm.
again, I am my own problem. The rationale that I came up with was that this guy is way older than me, at least by 10, 15 years. And, and he's talking about all these consequences, and my consequences that I had experienced, up to that point had not been that bad, had not been to the extent of what that gentleman was speaking of. And so that rationale um got me out of treatment and back to my own devices again, back to my old coping mechanisms again, which was drinking and using. But and I remember having epiphanies too, these big epiphanies like, oh, I'll just, relocate to part of the United States that's over 2,000 miles away from where I'm from, or
I
from
think
where I'm ripping and running at.
I
And
think
I
I
did
remember
that.
that. I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And what happened is that I I relocated to a different area that, again, that was 2,000 miles away from where I'm originally from. And uh what happened was that I took myself out there with me, and I ended up in the same spot out there.
Mhm.
Ended up with a criminal record out there, not a treatment center visit, but I think it was a little bit worse than that. I ended up hitchhiking my way back to where I was originally from, which again was 2,000 miles away, and that was a very, very difficult consequence, only to come back to being homeless again.
Yeah.
And so, when and so there was multiple indicators along the way to where like I knew that I first had a problem. Um, and I think what I would do is rationalize and justify my way into continuing to utilize that same coping mechanism,
Right.
which was drinking and using.
Yeah, and that's, and I feel like that's something that happens with no matter what addiction it is, right? There's always that excuse mechanism, like, oh, well, just today, or I'll just do I had a hard day. Like, yeah, and there's kind of that excuse mechanism is always at the core there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and again, like and I guess that's also something to look at too. Like, are those really excuses? Are
Mhm.
they? Like, oh, I had a hard day, so you work hard, you play hard.
Yeah,
And is that really is so, what I one of the things that that's a good question to kind of ask ourselves. It's a good thing to inventory, and uh is that an excuse, or is that a behavior that we learned?
right, right. Yep.
Is or is that something that we were kind of taught or brought up with socially,
Mhm.
because we don't have to learn these things from our families either, because as we grow into adults, you know, our social institutions change. And so we end up getting into, like say, like we get married, or or get with partners or something like that, and and we kind of sort of develop families of our own. And sometimes this stuff hits then. It's like a later on in life thing too. And but the behavior is learned somewhere. The
Right.
behavior is always learned somewhere. We're not born with this stuff. And so for me, it came from my upbringing, and the family I came from. I know someone else who, this is actually someone that I worked with. I knew for her, addiction came into her life, not necessarily from her family. It came from her husband, and so, or her former husband, uh, sadly, that gentleman passed away as a direct result of the disease of
Mhm.
addiction. Um, but however, the lady that I worked with, she's still sober today. And so it's always something that's learned. And the rationales are always something that we learn too. I remember a guy used to say to me when and this guy's also passed away as well. Um, I remember he said to me, he said, "It's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it." And
Mhm.
this was, and he would always say these things to me when we were sitting across from each other at a table down in his basement, and we were shooting heroin together. And he said, "It's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it." And he used to say this to me because of the consequences that I would experience. He didn't experience those. And he didn't experience a lot of the same consequences I did. And that could be, and it was for a multitude of different reasons, a multitude. Um, and so I remember he used to say that to me, and that was his justification for continuing his use, which eventually led to his demise, and he left behind a wife and three kids.
Mhm.
And that was the first memorial service I went to, when I got clean this time. That was the first one,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget it. It feels like it was just an hour ago.
Yeah.
hmm
Mhm.
And and then there will be, and I know there will be more. I know there will be. Um, have I become numb to it? No, I haven't. But because it is part of it. However, there are the rewards too of the individuals who do make it. And then also too, like, one of the things I like to remember as well. um this one always hits me pretty hard, but you know you never really become numb to the deaths that you see, like people dying from this stuff, because there's always, some level of sadness.
Yeah.
But what I like to remember is, especially with the ones that I've worked with, professionally and unprofessionally, or personally, I should say, um, is that I like to remember who they were and how happy they were when they were sober, when they were clean and sober, like when they were trying to get better.
Yeah.
because they're genuinely happy and it's pure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Because even like the scene that you and I were part of, like, you know, there, it's like, I think a lot of people, they, because people underestimate themselves, they don't understand that they are valued, that they are valuable. Like some of those guys, I just kind of wonder, like, would they have known how much people missed them afterwards, And
yeah,
like you know, there's still opening up like my social media and seeing some people like 4, 5, 6 years later saying things like, man, I miss him, and posting pictures of him, and just like it's
yeah,
wild. Like they didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. It's difficult. And and here's one of the things too, you know, isolation is a big one, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because what's another reason why we all joined this call today was because we another reason why we joined this call today is because we can't we have the people that are around us in our day-to-day lives, they don't understand what it is we go through. They don't. We have to get into groups like these and find the community support that's around us that we can also see, face to face. So that way we can have someone to relate to us,
Hmm.
and someone who's kind of gone through the same thing and knows how to show empathy to us. Because oh my gosh, I can tell you for years, you know I remember coming up to some people, it was just like, yeah, like, I think I got a drug problem, or you know what, like I think I got a problem with, you know, with alcohol, or I have a problem with um I have a problem with food or even gambling. And a lot of normal people that, I call them normies, a lot of what they say, or kind of the attitude that they take on, is, well, you're just going to have to buckle down and get your shit together. I mean, pardon my language, but that's what they say. You just got to buckle down and get your stuff together. Um, and that doesn't help us, because if that's all we needed to do, or if that's all we had to do, we would have done it by now. We would have done it. We would have we would have been done it. I know that's not really grammatically correct, but that's where we would have been.
Yeah.
And because, and I want everybody to hear this too. I've been working with, and I've been and I've been working with, and I have been around alcoholics, addicts, and people struggling with addiction for over 20 years. And if I had to put like a general consensus upon these people that I've met and these people that I've been around, alcoholics, addicts, people struggling with addiction, we are the smartest, most resourceful, most creative, most brilliant individuals that I think the world has to offer. I've never met a dumb alcoholic. I've never met a dumb addict. Never. Um, we are we are the best. We are the best that the world has to offer. We are. And it's been proven time and time and time again. I mean, just as an example, look at music from the early 1990s. Look, that grunge rock sound. What was that made? Like, what was who was that? Like the individuals who created that sound, or who revolutionized that sound. They all struggled with alcohol and drugs. That's why a lot of them are not with us anymore. A lot of them are not with us anymore. They were very brilliant individuals. Very. Um, some of the best actors in the world, like that, they've also struggled with the same thing. And, so that's why I say, and also too, like, go into the prisons, go into the jails, man. Like, I mean, they are, like, these people are, yeah, oh my gosh, some of the most street smart
Yeah.
and book
Yeah.
smart individuals that you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
You will ever meet. Like, when it comes to, the world, if we ever have an apocalypse, those are the ones that you're going to want to hang with, because they're going to make it.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're going to make it for sure.
Now
Hmm.
we have about 20 minutes before we'll get to the
Okay.
question and answer. So in the next 20 minutes,
Yeah.
discuss methods of recovery. What you think
Okay.
are like good methods of recovery.
Sure, 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 sure. Okay, so I will start with the one that I utilize, and for me, I work a 12-step program. I work 12 steps in Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, that's what that's me. That's my preference, and the reason why I use that is purely for the aspect of community support. We touched on it earlier. Um, we touched on how nobody understands what I go through. Nobody understands what I've went through. No one understands my addictions to alcohol, and even nowadays it's cigarettes and caffeine. So, like, I'm still, hey, like, I'm still struggling. Like, it's not, I guess it's not really a struggle, but but I still have, there's still kinks. Um, but I work 12 step for the purpose of having people around me that I can just reach out to on a daily basis, who are also just kind of on call for me, that will help me. And they do. They're always there for me, and I'm there for them too. Some other methods of recovery, is also, the use of MATs. MAT stands for medically assisted treatment. Okay. It is something that is still pretty new. I mean, not necessarily, like methadone's been around for a long time, but Suboxone, like, that's something that is been around for, I want to say, around 17 years, maybe somewhere in there. I want to say around
Mhm.
2000. I want to say around 2009, 2010 was when that stuff really
Yeah.
started to spread like wildfire as, like, sort of like an opiate blocker. And I think, like, that is also a great, like, that's also a method that can be used to help achieve recovery. It's just, the only thing it still incorporates, um, you know, uh, BUP, which is buprenorphine, which is a Schedule 1 narcotic in the DEA, or no, I'm sorry, ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. That's on their schedule. They have a schedule of substances, and a schedule in Schedule 1 and Schedule 2. Uh, controlled substances or narcotics. Buprenorphine is in. I believe it is a Schedule 1. I believe, the last time I checked, and it didn't start out that way.
Mhm.
It started out, I think, as a Schedule 3, but they saw how much sometimes people can abuse it, right?
Yeah.
People have abused it and stayed on it for longer than what they were prescribed. And so there's that. And then, also, too, other methods of recovery is, therapy. I mean, getting a therapist, and working with that therapist on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
But also, a therapist too is gonna encourage, community support groups. This is the biggest thing, because the thing is with therapy is that that relationship only goes so far. There's a pretty big boundary there, and that boundary
Right.
is the clinical licensure that that therapist holds. There's ethical guidelines that that therapist has to follow. And so even a therapist is going to encourage community support in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
Um,
Now, let me
there's
ask you a
also
question real fast. With your work, do you find that people that you work with still have kind of a resistance to therapy as opposed to going to other programs? Because I find like people still treat therapy like this, almost like I don't want to go because I won't be understood, or it's just not going to work for me. You know, some people have had bad experiences and so they're afraid to go back. And what would you say to people who are kind of like worried about that?
what I would say is keep searching. First of all, keep searching for the right therapist, because not every therapist is gonna be able to understand. That's
Mhm.
true. You know, as a therapist myself, like we're supposed to, but there's also a thing in this world that I hate looking at myself, but it's there, and so we got to call it out, and that is implicit bias.
Mhm.
Um, some therapists, or actually everybody has that, right? Everybody has an implicit bias of some sort. Okay. And however, we got to work on that stuff. We got to be aware of that stuff as therapists, so that way we can better help other people, because it is not about us. It's not about our own emotions. It's not about our implicit bias. It is about helping that individual who's in front of us.
Mhm.
That's what it's about, because they came to us for help. We got to help them. We got to do whatever we can to help them. I didn't say save them, because there's a big
Right.
difference.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
a big difference. Not save them, help them. And also too, and to kind of touch more on the resistance part, um, resistance is something that's very normal, okay? And here's the reason why it is normal is because throughout our lives in addiction, or throughout our lives, living in trauma, um, we have become accustomed to trying to process and deal with our problems on our own.
Yeah.
We have become accustomed to that, but at the same time, we still have we're still going to jail. We're still ending up homeless. We're still wrecking, romantic relationships, or personal relationships, or professional. Like, all these consequences are still hitting us. And so, it's very cunning, baffling, and powerful. It really is. And so, resistance is something that's normal. And so, like, first of all, like, I want to say that to anyone who's struggling with that, resistance is normal, but at the same time, just keep coming back. Just keep coming back, and, and something may click here. Something may come about to where you might start viewing things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
You just got to keep coming back. And also too, there is the other part too, to where um, being aware of, sort of, the powerlessness that you have over dealing with with coping with your reality by hurting yourself.
Right.
We're powerless over that. That's one of the reasons why we have so many consequences. We know it's going to work, and we know it's going to work quick. So let's go use it. Let's go get it. Let's go use it. And I don't care who I hurt. I don't care who I have to go through. I don't care like what happens, like, this is what I got to do. And so, it's It's a very normal thing for us. You know why it's normal? Because it's what we've done for so long.
Yeah.
It's just what we've done for so long. It's what we've learned. And but again, like as long as we keep, coming back to, therapy and also find the right therapist. Hey, we're not going to get along with everybody. We're
Yeah.
not just going to go into a room and just start opening up.
Right.
Like that's just not going to happen.
Right.
We're so we are so, it's so ingrained in us, and we've really cut our teeth out there when it comes to dealing with life on life's terms, and we've been to the lowest depths, a lot of us, whether that's emotionally, whether it's an external event, all of the above. We've been to the lowest of low. And so with that with that we have to, again, just keep coming back, you know
Now, for people who don't necessarily know what 12-step is, can you go into that a little bit?
Sure, 12-step recovery is Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. There's also Adult Children of Alcoholics.
Okay.
That's also a 12-step program. There's Al-Anon, there's Nar-Anon, and these are for, the family members of addicts and alcoholics. Um, there's also Cocaine Anonymous, CA. There's also SAA because sex is another thing. Sex is another addiction that we go through. And there's a Gamblers Anonymous as well because gambling is another one. There's a lot of 12-step programs out there that can help. And so yeah, I think I've gone through like all of the anonymous
Okay.
programs and
Now,
the Al-Anon and Nar-Anon.
with the 12 steps, are they like similar steps in each one? Like, can you kind of go over that, like what that
Yeah.
entails, or yeah.
So we'll go through all the steps right now. So step one, we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol or our addiction, and our lives had become unmanageable. What this is, and it is an admission that we are, again, I keep using this term, but it just fits so well because it's so simple too. And that is coping with our realities by hurting ourselves, coping with our realities by drinking or using. Okay. Um, we admitted we were powerless over that. And due to being powerless over it, our lives have become unmanageable, meaning homeless, we're in jail, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, the next one is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Okay. Now, what this is getting to a place to where looking for something other than ourselves to kind of bring us to a path that is a little more healthier for us, or something that's able to, there's something that we can utilize in order to remain honest with ourselves, that hey, I got a problem, I need help. Because we can, like, I can say right now, I have a problem, I need help, and then as soon as we get off this call, I will go do something, to where like I've triumphed, what I mean? Because like, I'm trying to think. I can go tell my kid, hey, go clean your room or something, and he goes and does it without even without even questioning me. Makes me feel like I'm back in control a little bit, and so like, ooh, I got this. Okay. So now I can so now it'll just snowball until like I can control my addiction as well. So coming to believe in a power greater than ourselves to restore us to sanity, it brings us from those thoughts that I just named that could be insane. Okay. Because
Yeah.
insanity is, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. That's how our thinking is, right? And then the third step, and here's where a lot of people get tripped up, okay, because it utilizes the word God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that step is and that step and the third step is we gave our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And so let's take the word God out of it. We gave our will and our lives over to the care of a higher power as we understood it. So that kind of takes the God and the Christian sociological part out of it. Okay. Because here's the thing, okay, with organized religion. Not everybody may agree with me, and that's okay. All right. But I'm just going to explain very briefly and very cut and dry and black and white what religion is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Religion is a social institution. All right. It's a social institution that is guided by stories that are in the stories that are in a book that is called the Bible. And these stories are layered with different meanings. And so it's difficult it's not a very black and white thing, but people over the years have tried to make it black and white. And that's why we have all of these Catholics, Protestants, Seventh-day Adventists, all this other stuff, right? These are all social institutions, just like families, just like you know what I mean, just like justice departments,
Right.
all this stuff. Just another social institution. All right. I'm not saying that this social institution has not created trauma within people, because it most definitely has.
Yeah.
Okay. This social institution has burnt this world to the ground almost. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a war that was fought for over 30 years because of this
Right.
social institution. So like I don't want to discredit that at all. But that's what it is. um that's what it is. And so with that, like that kind of helps to just kind of break it down a little bit. And it kind of helps to think of God, or a power greater than myself, and in a much more in something that's much smaller and something that is a little more tangible. And so what I like to look at is, just like the people who are in front of me who are helping me. That's how those are the ones that I kind of give my will and my life over to. I give my will and my life over to the program as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what helps me to not think I know what the solution to my problems are, or
Right.
it helps me to stay away from thinking, I am the solution to my
Right.
problems.
Yeah.
It
The
keeps it keeps me in survival mode.
Right. Okay, so real fast before we switch over the question and answer. So if you
Yeah.
guys have questions, ask them in the chat, and I'm just going to randomly pick questions. We won't have enough time to get to everyone's questions, so if we don't get to it, my apologies. And do you know what sucks is I realized that it's not even recording. Uh, We had so many technical difficulties on this. Yeah. So I'm
Oh
supposed to have a
yeah.
video for this and it's not even recording.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, I might have to twist your arm into doing this again. But
Hey, that's all right. I got
but
it.
real fast before we switch over, if you were to say that there was one thing that you consistently see, and maybe there's not anything like this, so let us know that too. When you're working with people and you see people start doing better for themselves, was there one thing that you feel that people suddenly had like an awareness of, or like an epiphany about? Um, yeah.
So when I see people doing well, and I see them continually doing well, what I am seeing a consistent pattern. And what that pattern is that, first of all, they have found people that were close to them that they were able to use as like a support network. They built a circle around themselves while they were in an inpatient treatment program, right? And then, and here's the big one right here. Okay, here, this is the big one. People have the most success when they go to a treatment program, or they go through with the therapy and the therapeutic interventions. um the tools that they are using, or the tools that they are obtaining, and the tools that they're learning about to help them deal with their problems with addiction, they are utilizing it outside of the therapy room. Okay. They're not just sitting in a therapy room and saying, yes, I know what this tool is, I could even explain it to you, like I can explain all the many different uses and everything else. No, like they're not doing that. What they're doing is they're going out and they're working it.
Mhm.
And that's where success really lies, is you got to go out there and work it.
Okay. Now, here we had, I'm going to switch over into the questions real fast because, uh, let's see. Audrey asked, can you have him list the other 12 steps to complete the 12 steps? So if we can run through them real fast.
Yeah. So the fourth step is, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And so what that is making a list of resentments, the cause of the resentment, your part in the resentment, and then also, or I forgot one, I'm sorry. The resentment, the cause of the resentment, and the effects of the resentment, your part in it, and then the fears inventory, and also a sex inventory. So of people that you hurt, in a romantic way. Now, and then the fifth step is, we admitted to, the fifth step is when you explain that inventory to another person, right? Um, and we admitted to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. That's the
Mhm.
fifth step. And so, and there's that word God again. Sorry, for that part, but that's just how it's listed.
Yeah.
And so, that is when you read off that fourth step to another person, or to a doctor, or whoever you confide in. And then step six, um, we were entirely ready to have God or our higher power remove all these defects of character. And so, that is, once the fifth step is done, you kind of meditate on it, and and you're ready to move on to, because you have an idea of all your character defects at this time, and you have an idea of all your fears. Then step seven, humbly asked, to remove our shortcomings. And so again, that's another word for character defects, shortcomings. And what that is essentially it is kind of giving our will and our lives over again, to our higher power, and and as a means to remove our character defects.
Yeah.
And then step eight is making a list of people we need to make amends to. Made a list of amends, and then step nine is, um, made amends wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Okay, so what that means is that we made our list of amends on the eighth step. So on the ninth step, it's time to carry those out. That is a real big practice in humility. Okay, is to be able to go admit our wrongs to someone else. And so it's a huge practice. And and some people, there may never be there. There might be some wrongs that we can never fully right. Okay, so just, keep that in mind. It's good to work that with somebody, not by yourself, because if you do it by yourself, you could really hurt somebody, and you could really hurt yourself. And especially if it's someone you really, really love, like your kids or something like that, like, ugh,
Yeah. Yeah,
do it with
absolutely.
someone else. Okay. Now, steps 10, 11, and 12, maintenance steps. Okay. Step 10, continue to take personal inventory. When we were wrong, promptly admit it. Same thing as the fourth step, right? We look at where we were resentful, dishonest, afraid, and we admit that stuff. We admit it, we write it down, we admit it to someone else, then we resolutely turn to someone we can help. Okay. And then step 11 um is, kind of, is basically carrying that out, right? Step 11 is where we look again at where we selfish, dishonest, or afraid, and how do we kind of, bring harmony to discord, essentially. Step 12, that's when we go help someone else. That's when we're
Mm.
ready. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all of our affairs. So
Okay.
that's when we're ready to go help someone else.
Awesome. And random question, MJ asked, what strategies would you recommend for addressing the shame linked to past addictive behaviors?
One more time, what is it again?
What strategies would you recommend for addressing the shame linked to past addictive behaviors?
That's good. That's good. And so, here's what shame is. Okay. Shame is, to kind of speak on it psychologically. It's kind of like it's a super ego. Okay. Like, especially if we look at like some of those, like, some of those like Freudian, some of the theories from Sigmund Freud. It is the super ego. Um, So the super ego is something that kind of stays lodged in your midbrain. Okay. One of the reasons why we use is to kind of open up those neural pathways to where we can, to where, the thoughts and the things that we take in can kind of sit in our prefrontal cortex. Helps us to let go. That's
Yeah.
another thing that a religion does for people too. It helps us to let go. And so the shame part is that is a part of our ego. It's a part of our disease that's trying to keep us down. Okay. It's trying to keep
Yeah.
us in that place of, of continued use. All right. And so my recommendation for that is um definitely seek therapy for that. Don't try to deal with that on your own, because it's not going to happen. We're not going to see any, clear cut results. We're
Mhm.
not going to, find good practices. Also too, this is also a thing too, to where and also this is something that, that meds can help with as well, like mood stabilizers, stuff like that, just to kind of get just to kind of get started in that healing process. Meds can kind of just help to, to provide a biological effect to where, to where a cognitive shift can then take place through talking.
Right. Okay.
Hmm.
And let's see. Let's see. There, for people who don't necessarily know a whole lot about like recovery and who may be new to it, what is a sponsor?
A sponsor is someone who essentially takes you through the 12 steps of whatever recovery program, whatever 12-step program you are in. Okay. It's someone to help you. It's kind of like that right hand man. It's that right hand man that can help you with going through, the 12 steps. It's not a banker. It's not someone who, you can
Hmm.
just call up and ask for money. you know some sponsors, they don't really do well with boundaries, so you kind of get some blurred lines there sometimes. And so you kind of want to make sure that, the sponsor that you have, or the person that you're looking at, you kind of watch them for a little while. What I mean, or watch them for a little while. Um, and that and also a sponsor too is someone who's helping you so that way they can stay sober themselves. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's not something that, they're getting paid to do. All
right.
right. This is service. This is service for themselves and to the person who can yeah, you're keeping them sober just as much as they're keeping you sober.
Okay, and let's see. Do you have opinions on psychedelic therapy? And do you know anyone
Yeah,
has helped?
sure. So psychedelic therapy. Let's break the word psychedelic down. Okay. What does it start with? Psyche. All right. What this does, all right, is it's just like something I just spoke about just prior to this. Okay. Addiction and the overwhelming thoughts and the overwhelming feelings and everything else, it's stuck and lodged in our midbrain. Those neural pathways to get things to our prefrontal cortex are it's essentially blocked off. Those neural pathways are constricted, and so psychedelic therapy helps to open those up. It helps to open up those neuro pathways to where to where those overwhelming thoughts or feelings can finally pass through the brain and get to that prefrontal cortex, and we can get to that place to where we can just kind of let go. You know what I mean? Like we can kind of just let, I mean, or maybe not fully let go, but like but we when neurons kind of pass to our prefrontal cortex, that's the place, when and then when everything kind of cycles back through, we gain new perspective. Okay, we're able to gain a new perspective. We're able to kind of look at things through a different lens.
Okay. And Danny asks, how do you find meetings where you feel connected after going through spiritual awakenings on your own? So if you have people that have gone through things like that, what would you suggest?
What I would suggest is come share it. Come share that stuff. Like, like, I mean, I would love to, I know there's people in those meetings who would love to meet you and would love to, bend your ear about that stuff. Because here's the thing, okay? I'm, like I'm 9 years and some change sober, right? And clean. I have gotten some of the best help from individuals who have only been sober maybe a week, not even 30 days. you know, I've gotten, because everybody, like everybody has been on their own journey. And some of it, yeah, and some of it can be spiritual, it sure can. I don't doubt that you're very, connected. Um, with your own emotions as well to whomever asked that question. I have no doubt that you are very connected to your own emotions, and you're very connected to kind of your own insides. And so, like, man, that's a real leg up. Like that's a real leg up. And so yeah, I'm sure, I know I would welcome you with open arms, and anybody else in a recovery meeting, they should as well. And if they're not, and if they don't, well, then they might not be working on themselves a whole lot either,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see. So here's one. It's not necessarily chemical dependency, or it is because it's chemicals in the brain. I do have a
Yeah.
question. What of games or video games such as World of Warcraft or WoW? Yeah.
Well, here's the thing with video games, all right? Video games can be really good for, well, they can kind of work as, we use a different part of our brain, okay, when we're playing video games. But the one thing that's, that's most interesting Because we are operating from our midbrain, but at the same time, like, it's not like it's nothing that's really overwhelming because it's like it's systematic, right? There's always a system to a video game. But here's the thing that's really I find very interesting about video games. And that is and what that is the vibrations that you feel in a controller. Like how a controller, like like say like in a driving game or something, you bump a wall, or or when you're playing Madden or something, when you use a hit stick, or when your guy gets hit, the controller vibrates. Well, that is that's a form of EMDR.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a form of electromagnetic dialectical therapy. I didn't say it the right way, but yes, that's a form of EMDR, and that really helps to calm our brains down.
Mhm. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. Scrolling up a little bit. We Snaw asked, are there any non-safe topics for groups? Are you allowed to share anything that you want? I worry about breaking the rules. It can be a
No,
barrier to help. Yeah.
yeah, no, it can be. Okay, so is there any unsafe topics? I would say there's no topic that's really unsafe. I mean, your struggle is your struggle, right? Um, however, do some group, each group is autonomous, okay? They all operate their own way. Do and yeah, each group is autonomous. But what I would say is that uh what I would say is that with bringing up topics is that, oh, it's just on the tip of my tongue. I would consider maybe how you articulate it. Like I would say, try to read the room a little bit. Maybe read the room, because here's the thing, like we kind of struggle with trust issues to begin with, right? And so and so um and so it's a good thing to just kind of sit and listen for a minute before you maybe bring up some topics that may be a little more near and dear to your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, let's see. Now, I'm going to paraphrase this because this is a very long question, but Maddie had asked up there, okay, so I'm going to try to paraphrase this the best way I can. Um,
Sure.
if you don't necessarily believe in all the things about the 12 steps, right? So for example, your take on God, or like it being an institution, how do you effectively work in that system? Like, I'm going to put my spin on that question. How do you kind of like navigate the in between there?
Yeah, if you don't really believe in it, oh my gosh, well that was my experience.
Mhm. Yeah,
Did I think it was gonna work? Hell no. my my problems and my thinking and everything else, like, it's way too complex, man. Way too complex. Um and so how could this simple program really help me? Well, it's a simple program, and it's not really meant to be figured out. It's just meant to be worked, and so um I would have to say that I would say, if you don't quite believe in it all the way, try working it before you develop a consensus as to why it's not working.
yeah. I imagine it's
Hmm.
one of those things where it's like, even if you don't align with all the things, you can fit it into your own sort of paradigm, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, like, there, and that's the beauty of working with somebody else too.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of working with a sponsor, because, you have an individual helping another individual. So what are you going to get? Individualized, person-centered care.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when you were working the 12 steps here, when you were working it, did you have a point where, because they use the term God, did you feel that you yourself had connected with, or like was working with a higher power? Did you find, like, what was for you your mindset or paradigm for that? If you don't mind sharing that.
No, no, no. Yeah, no, I would love to. So here's one of the things that I really struggled with, okay, and that was control. I thought I had control of my own addiction. I thought I had control of my life, but I
Yeah,
don't. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But I don't.
yeah.
If I
I
had control of that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to interrupt real fast because I think a lot of people, that's where the judgment comes in, is they hear people say that and they're like, of course you have control. And the thing is, like, if you have never experienced that, you just don't know, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. And so, yeah, no, that's completely correct. And so here's the thing, like, when I finally gave my will and my life over to the care of a higher power, to the care of God as I understood him, as the step says,
mhm,
um, I would have to say that that happened when I stopped trying to control the outcome of my life or the
mhm,
outcome of my recovery since getting sober. I moved away from survival mode. I
mhm,
began to live. Okay. I didn't just get sober and just go crawl under a rock somewhere, because I just can't deal with the world. If I'm going to stay sober, I got to be shut away from the world and I got to be completely sheltered, right? No,
mhm.
that's not why we get sober. Not. I mean, we get sober to live. That is our license to live, because we deserve to live, man. We deserve to live, healthy and plentiful lives. You know what I mean? We deserve that the most too. We deserve to live to our fullest potentials, man. And I think, and when I'm in control and when I'm in survival mode, I can't make that connection. I can't. When I'm in,
Yeah,
like when I'm in survival mode, the only thing is survive. And
yeah,
that is self will for me. That is not my higher power's will for me.
right.
Not.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So, earlier there was a question that I saw that I actually wanted to bring up, and the question was, do you find that alcohol consumption makes you want to use more? Is that something that you found, and is that a pattern that you see in people?
Well, I think, once we use a mood and mind altering substance and it gets us to a place to where we are comfortable with ourselves and our situations, well then, yeah, sure, it can definitely lead to something else, especially if we can find something that's any stronger.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we can find something else that's, cheaper, stronger, more long lasting, yeah, man,
Mhm.
we're gonna go to it for
Yeah.
sure. For sure, we're gonna go to it. Something that could get us into less trouble legally. Yeah, so yeah, man. Hmm.
Okay, let's see. Um, oh, the questions have slowed down. Okay.
Okay.
Um, okay, here, I'm gonna frame this one into a question. So Jason, thank you for your comment. Um, so this individual said that they've been sober for 5 months, but had been in hermit mode, afraid to move out from
Okay.
their mothers, and
Okay.
feeling like they'll never have their agency again. So, what would you
Oh,
say to that? Oh,
well,
here, wait,
first.
I've tried moving out alone again. I relapse and wonder if it's loneliness or trauma of being abandoned. Yeah.
Oh, well, first of all, what I want to say. to you is congratulations on having 5 months. I'm so beyond proud of you. Um, Now, here's the next part. Moving out on your own, I wonder what your plan looked like as it related to relapse prevention. Okay, it's because when we change our surroundings, when we change our living space, when we change, when we change jobs, like any aspect of our life, right? That's a big drastic change. One of the things we have to look at is, okay, what if things get squirrely? All right, I got to have a relapse prevention plan. Relapse prevention can look like having a sponsor, having a support group, and knowing the area. You know what I mean? And and kind of looking at building some safety nets here. When it comes to kind of moving out on your own. um or also too, like as it relates to, because I believe I heard you say this individual has an agency of some sort, so it sounds like it might be
No,
a.
is wondering if they'll ever have agent like self-agency again. Yeah.
Oh, self agency. Oh yeah, you most definitely will. You most definitely will, for sure. And but at the same time, you're not going to be able to do it alone. You're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
No, Carol said something interesting here. I went to treatment for cocaine and then discovered I was using that so I could drink more, which was my primary addiction. And I think
Yeah.
that's very real, that there's an
Oh
underlying and it gets covered over sometimes. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It-
And yeah, and so like that's very normal, and that's first of all, I hope treatment went well for you. But also too, man, that's such a, oh my gosh, like that's an age old remedy right there.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, cocaine, man, an upper is gonna, yeah, like I'll drink everybody under the table then.
Oh, yeah. Let's
Hmm.
see. Okay. So one of our mods actually asked a question, and
Sure.
let's see. Oh, it's moving so fast on my end. Hold on. Let me find her. Let me find her. Do you have any experience with motivational interviewing? And if so, can you speak to its effectiveness?
So here's the thing with motivational interviewing. All right. One of the key factors in motivational interviewing is kind of like listening, and and kind of like invoking self-efficacy. All right, so motivational interviewing is something that we use in order to play to an individual's, or try to find a client's strengths. You know what I mean? Like motivational interviewing helps us with that. And so it helps us to play to their strengths, because that's how we create treatment plans. Okay. Treatment plans are made that way. We look for a client's strengths, needs, abilities, and preferences. That's what we look for. We build treatment plans based off of those things, and how we get those answers to where we are able to build those treatment plans is by motivational interviewing.
Okay, awesome.
So it's very effective, and that's in the top drawer of the toolbox, so to
Yeah.
speak.
So for people who aren't necessarily familiar with that, is there a way that you could like, is there like an example you could give of like how that looks a little bit, or is that weird?
Sure. No. So Scythe, I'm going to do it with you right now.
Okay.
So Scythe, I want you to give me two activities that you find enjoyable, relaxing, or entertaining.
Uh, Cooking
Cooking. Okay.
and writing.
Okay. So cooking and writing. Okay. So with cooking, that means that you don't really struggle with completing activities of daily living every day, do you? Like bathing, feeding yourself, stuff like that,
I
right?
absolutely do. I have to set reminders to eat on my phone because I'll forget.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
sucks.
Okay. Okay. But cooking
Yeah.
is something that you is enjoyable for you or
Yes.
relaxing or entertaining.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, what are can you give me uh what was your highest level of completed education? What's the highest level of completed education you have?
4 years of college.
4 years of college, so you
Yeah,
got a
it
degree?
wasn't, no, I didn't.
Okay.
It was a long program for astrophysics. So yeah.
Okay. You ever interested in going back to school? Is that a dream of yours at all?
Uh no, it's not.
No, it's not. Okay.
Mm.
So when it comes to any, vocational or educational resources or anything like that, like is there anything that you kind of is there a path that you've kind of always wanted to that's always interested you that you've ever wanted to like travel?
It was theoretical physics. I needed to do astrophysics to get the math and the credentials. Now I know I don't need the credentials, I just need the math. So it's something I could do on my own.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. It
okay.
just helps if you have the credentials and a little bit more like, street cred, so to speak.
Do you see where we're going yet?
No, I don't.
You don't.
I
Okay, you
don't.
don't. Okay. All right. So first of all, I have created like already like I see a goal. Okay,
Yeah,
I
I
see
know, I can
one.
see your brain going.
I see one objective so far, and that is performing activities of daily living as a means of self care.
Hmm.
Okay, self care is something that we need in order to stay sober.
Right.
And it's something to practice, right? And so first we're going to start small, activities of daily living. You find cooking to be an enjoyable activity. So what I'm going to do to help you abstain from illicit substances is one of the objectives I'm going to put towards that goal is getting up and cooking breakfast every morning.
Okay, yeah.
Getting up at a certain time and cooking breakfast every morning for at least a month.
Hmm.
And then after that month, we're going to come back again. I'm going to ask you the same questions again, but I'm going to kind of spin them a little differently. Okay. And maybe your educational goals might change. Maybe some assets of yours may change. I mean, like some abilities,
Yeah.
maybe your preferences might change as you start completing these different activities of daily living such or as you start completing just that one activity of daily living, I should say, which is getting up every morning, cooking yourself breakfast.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
And I could see how that's like super beneficial for people that are struggling with different types of addiction. Having that routine and having things in a routine that you enjoy is like really important. Yeah.
yeah. That's what we're on. We're on a journey of self love, man. We're
Yeah,
on a journey
absolutely.
of we're on a journey of we are on the journey of finally being kind to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we are out of time.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All
good,
right.
good
Well,
talk. Good talk. Thank you for being
Scythe,
here with
thank
us.
you, Scythe, and thank you everybody for
Yeah,
having me. I
yeah,
really, I really appreciate all of you, and good luck to everybody, man. Like
yeah,
each and every one of you. If you're struggling, if you're doing good, if you're struggling, you deserve every gift that recovery has to offer. Okay, and
absolutely.
also too, if you're not struggling and you're sober, get out there and help somebody. Okay, because they need you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed your time here and I hope that you received something from this. And if you haven't and you are able, please consider donating to Ryan. The links have been dropped in the chat. And yes, good luck to everybody. Okay. And until next time.
See
Bye.
ya.